Alright, what is up everybody? Joe Dobby back at it again with another deck profile for you today. I am so excited. 1.5 is finally here and we're going to be doing deck lists of 1.5 for the next few episodes. So far, I've built myself my main purple deck, which I am currently loving a lot. And I've built a MaloMyotismon deck. I've also built a green Grand Gabumon deck, and I love all of these three decks that I've built. What's coming up next is going to be a Crest Garurumon deck and an Ulforce Beelzemon deck. Shout out to All Good for hooking me up and helping me learn the ropes of the Ulforce. But with that said, we're talking about the MaloMyotismon tech here and how Lilithmon and Beelzemon can really come in to play and take full advantage of that MaloMyotismon passive. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. For the eggs, we are running 4 copies of MaloMyotismon. An absolutely awesome egg here, guys. MaloMyotismon on deletion, inheritable effect, draw 1, discard 1. Really great way to get rid of MaloMyotismon and to start throwing him into your discard pile so you can bring him out later with Mummymon, for example. Also allows you to get rid of all the options you want to get rid of in order to bring back through Lilithmon, especially if you know you're able to build that stack. So I'm going to leave that right there. We've got 1 copy of Yamon, and this is really mainly for when I want my Lilithmon or Beelzemon to get over some Digimon, like get to 12k and get over some of the 11k Digimon. We're seeing quite a bit of 11k DP Digimon in 1.5, and I think Yamon is a good way to go. We're running 1 copy of Gabumon, and the reason we're running 1 copy of Gabumon, you guys already know, very easily controls your opponent's ability to gain memory, and because of that, you're actually seeing him as a 1-of over here. We got 2 copies of Digimon, just your very cheap, easy to play, 2 cost drop. Allows you to kind of put your opponent to 1, and one of the things this deck is going to be very good at, especially if you're given the opportunity to do so, is to put your opponent to 1 all the time. Alright, so now I am running 3 copies of Tamers here. Tamers is a really good card. You guys know it from 1.0, man. Easy draw power, easy life, so there you go. I'm running 4 copies of Gabumon. Gabumon is once again another great card in purple. Allows you to really dig for things and discard things that you might not necessarily need at the time and take advantage of your discard pile for use later. So 4 copies of Gabumon was a must. And finally, for rookies, we're running 4 copies of Impmon. And the reason I'm running 4 copies of Impmon is because I am running Beelzemon in this deck. And one of the ways I am going to get to Beelzemon is only through Impmon. The goal is to legit just stay digivolving from Impmon to Beelzemon. Everything else will be used towards Malo or Lilith. For our level 4s, we're starting off here with 4 copies of Beelzemon. Everybody needs blockers, at least for now, unless you're like super hyper aggressive MaloMyotismon, and even then you still need blockers, because if you don't get to what you need, you can just be overwhelmed very quickly. The blockers are there, very important. And Digimon. So 4 copies of Digimon, once again, naturally a must in purple for now, and the really great retaliation effect, both active and inheritable, just makes it such a threat on the board. Forces your opponent to think twice before swinging into your security or swinging into other Digimon, and maybe forces them to even drop a blocker. And when they drop a blocker, they're just throwing memory away, and you can totally take advantage of that by exploiting that blocker through Heat Viper, through other means as well. I'm starting to see that I'm changing the role of Digimon from being the aggressor to being the passive retaliation, using the inheritable, making sure that my stack lives and remains a threat. That way my opponents are refraining from swinging into my level 6s because of the retaliation. 2 copies of Meramon here. This guy comes super clutch when you want to jump into your Megas ASAP. I've found him to be very useful. I'm actually contemplating whether to run 3 Digimon, 3 Meramon. Let me know in the comment section below if you've done that, but for now I've decided to run it this way. Level 5s, I am running 3 Lady Devimon, and with good cause. Lady Devimon is such great draw engine. Allows you to draw 2 and discard 2 on Digivolution, once again taking full advantage of that discard pile, guys. And her inheritable effect is amazing. It's so good. Literally, when you play an option card once per turn, effectively you can destroy a level 3 or lower Digimon. Really great synergy with Lilithmon here. And I am running also 3 copies of Mummymon. I'm not running Arukenimon, and the reason why is I'm playing from my trash versus my hand. And that ultimately means that Mummymon is going to see more value. I don't want to take too many slots up in my level 5s because I'm not really digivolving my level 5s besides the Lady Devimon. So 2 Mummymon there was enough for me. Once again, the effect when attacking, you can pay 3 memory to play a MaloMyotismon from trash to the field, and once MaloMyotismon is on the field, you can destroy Mummymon. So you actually gain the memory that MaloMyotismon would have through his passive, that all turns, whenever a Digimon is destroyed, gain a memory. So really, really good card. Move this to the side here. Next, we've got 3 copies of Lilithmon, the queen herself, and very, very powerful card, guys. Really, really great for allowing me to use a lot of the options that I have and taking full advantage. I can also cycle my options from the trash onto my hand on Digivolution if I have 10 or more cards in my trash. And because of that, you gotta have Lilithmon in a deck like this. Three copies of Beelzemon, guys. Beelzemon is great level 4 removal, great synergy with Impmon, even better synergy with Lilithmon, Impmon, and Night Raid, because you can get Lilithmon to Night Raid for free and bring out Impmon so you can get into your Beelzemon. And if you're at 4 memory, it's still going to be your turn. You can continue to capitalize. So great card there. 2 copies of MaloMyotismon. One of the great things I love about MaloMyotismon is that he comes from the trash, and you can literally just splash him, and he's good enough to be splashed as 2. Every time I draw into MaloMyotismon, I try to find ways to throw him into my discard pile because I can set myself up for later bringing out MaloMyotismon. So effectively, when you have the Mummymon out and you're swinging, you're paying 3, but you're netting really just paying 2 because MaloMyotismon will get you back up when Mummymon leaves the board. And that's actually a really, really great way to bring out something that makes your opponent second guess how often they want to swing into security and with what Digimon they want to swing into security, because if they don't survive, you're just going to gain a memory for it. So I'm running 2 copies of Millenniummon. These were initially 2 more option cards that I had, but I figured Millenniummon made the most sense in this scenario, and the reason why I say that is because there are a lot of threats in 1.5 for Purple. Purple is not the biggest DP-wise type of deck to play, and there are a lot of threats against Purple, guys. You have yourself Shine Greymon, you've got Craniumon, which negates everything you have. So going up into Millenniummon from a free Night Raid to Beelzemon is one of the main ways this deck will get rid of Craniumon, therefore allowing you to come back from losing to a black deck. Normally, it's going to be the black deck that will be a huge weakness, and potentially Alteress, wherever it is, whether it's red or black. I am running 1 copy of Necrophobia, guys, and the reason I'm running only 1 copy is because I only need 1 copy. If it ends up in security, that's great. If it ends up in my trash, that's awesome. I can bring it back through Lilithmon. And one of the other great things about having only 1 copy is that I only have 6 level 5 Digimon, and the only thing I'm really going to end up using Necrophobia on is most likely my Mummymon, aside from when I have like a Lilithmon in my hand or a Beelzemon in my hand and I want to get to Lady Devimon. But apart from that, 1 was enough for me. Next, I am running 3 copies of Trump Sword. Oh, sorry about that. Next, I am running 2 copies of Trump Sword, and one of the great things of running only 2 copies is that, you know, you only ever really need to use it once from your hand. If it's in your security, great, and once it's in your trash, you can bring it back through Lilithmon. So there's actually more, you can actually it almost feels like you have 3 Trump Sword, even if you're only running 2. So I like that. I like that kind of thing. Alright. I am now also running 3 copies of Night Raid. I found this debatable whether I wanted to run 3 copies of Night Raid or 2 copies of Night Raid and maybe 1 more copy of Necrophobia. But I'm realizing that it's much cheaper to run Night Raid. It also synergizes very well with the Mon Beelzemon combo. So having 3 was very, very important for me. And excuse me, it's actually been very, very great that that I've run 3. And I don't think I'll deviate from 3. If anything, I'll go to 4. But I mean, I don't really. At that point, I'll be taking out a rookie, and I don't really want to do that. For Tamers, we're running 2 copies of Matt, standard 3-cost Matt. And obviously, you can bring back any card here that is a Tamer or that is a Digimon or an option, and is your memory stabilizer. So it's really great. And finally, guys, we've got 2 copies of Mimi. Oh, let me tell you, this card is powerful. This card makes my Night Raid cost 1, makes my Trump Sword cost 6, makes my Necrophobia cost 4, and it decreases all of that by 1 more if I have 2 of her on the field. It also makes my opponent think twice when they play an option card, because sometimes, let's say, a green deck will do everything it can to get to their megas, so they're most likely gonna be on 0 memory, and then they play Hidden Potential Discovered. Just hit them with a Mimi, they'll Digivolve into that mega, but it'll be your turn, and that is when you Trump Sword them, right? So that's a very, very good card overall. In addition to that, it pairs well with a lot of the memory control in here, because for 1, you can actually Night Raid for free with Lilithmon, gain a memory through whether you have 1 or 2, and then that might mean the difference between going from 3 memory to 4 memory, playing that Hitmon, Digivolving into Beelzemon, making it still your turn to jump into MaloMyotismon. And once you've done that, you've removed the level 4, MaloMyotismon will put you to 1, MaloMyotismon will actually go to 5, so you're not even putting your opponent to the full 6 with MaloMyotismon. So ideally, you want to be able to have all 3 of these guys out on the board, and honestly, it's not that hard. That's what I love about this deck, because it's not very difficult at all to actually have all 3 of these level 6s out, unless you absolutely brick, which has happened to me with this deck, but it's like, oh, it's just totally fine. This is not the type of deck that you will play thinking I am going to just stomp and win all my games. This is not that type of deck. This is the type of deck where you are responding to your opponent's choices. You are responding to your opponent's decisions, and in turn, these responses almost guide your opponent into a corner where, while you might be playing from behind, they're trying to keep you behind. And once you catch up, there's a tipping point in this deck that once you hit that tipping point, you're in control of the game, and all of a sudden your opponent, runs out of effectively just a lot of the things that they might need. So for example, I faced a green deck. As I was kind of slowly building up to what I needed to build into, effectively I managed to remove things through Beelzemon, through Lady Devimon, and effectively they started to not be able to draw rookies and level 4 Digimon. And at that point, once that tipping point hit, MaloMyotismon comes in, my rookies swing, I gain a memory for each rookie that dies, swinging into security, allowing me to play something else, which is really, really good. Same thing actually for Red Omni. I faced a Red Omnimon deck, shout out Max DePera, where I literally thought, because I bricked on my first hand, that I would be losing that game very, very quickly. Luckily, I managed to be able to have Trump Sword in my hand, and I managed to cycle it so much through Matt and Lilith and not pay that much because of Mimi, and that allowed me to actually come back from 0 security, and Max had like 2 or 3, and I came back to win against a Red Omni. Both had the regular Omni and the Ultra S on it. So when you're able to do all that stuff, it makes this deck really, really fun. Once again, it's not a straightforward deck. This is a deck where you have to be kind of guiding your opponent to a certain place where you're able to capitalize on what you make them do. For example, if you play if you Night Raid into an Impmon with the Lilithmon out, they have to decide, do I get rid of the Lilith, do I get rid of the Impmon? You know, make them come up with these decisions. If I have a Lady Devimon out for 8k and you have an Impmon out for 1k and they're both on the field, they have to decide, like, which one do I kill, because both of these can get into a level 6, right? If I have a Mummymon on board and I bring out MaloMyotismon and MaloMyotismon happens to be there, your opponent's going to be thinking, do I swing into their security, right? And if they don't swing into your security, all of a sudden you buy yourself another turn. If they do swing into security, they're slowly, if they lose, if they die to security, you're gaining that memory and limiting their options as you go. So that's what this deck wants to do. It's a very control-y deck. It's a deck you have to be very patient with, and it takes a couple, like a lot of practice, but it's super, super fun and super, super rewarding. Win or lose, I love this deck. But that's it for the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed, and take care, and let me know what you think in the comments. Bye.